put together some very angry notes, Andrew. So I'm going to be doing a lot of shouting, even with my fucked up voice here. So, right. Okay. I guess I'll just start off now. And you're going to know damn well what I'm talking about once I roll into it. So.
Fucking A, right. All right. Bring it, man. Bring it.
All right. This is BlissVille, Misadventures in BlissVille. I'm David Lawler, and I'm here with Andrew. And tonight, I'm going to talk about something that has really been pissing me off of late. This comes from the Business Insider. More measles cases have been found in California, health officials said Friday. Figures released by the California Department of Public Health showed that there are now 91 confirmed cases in the state, up from 79 on Wednesday. Of those, 58 infections have been linked to visits to Disneyland or contact with a sick person who went there. Half a dozen states and Mexico also have recorded measles cases connected to Disneyland. The outbreak, which originated at Disney last month, is spreading to the broader community. You have one sick kid goes to Disneyland, comes back. Now we've got 91 confirmed cases of a disease that is very easily avoidable in this nation. In many states, parents may be able to avoid the legal requirements for vaccinating their children. Now let's get into these reasons here. You got three, basically. Well, yeah. Well, we'll say two. I'll say one and then 2A and 2B. One would be medical reasons. So, these are kids that have compromised immune systems. They have allergies to vaccines, right?
I just need to stop you here because I just want to check the premise here. The premise is that the infinitesimal number of parents that do not vaccinate their children for measles is the problem that is causing this outbreak. Did that article actually try and say that the measles is spreading from Disneyland to fucking Mexico? Is that the idea that article said? Because that's what it sounded like they said to me. That doesn't make any fucking sense.
Well, I think what we're looking at here.
5 parents here who didn't vaccinate their kids. And all of a sudden we're infecting all of Mexico, and it has absolutely nothing to do with half of Mexico walking across the border without being vaccinated into our country.
Planned communities that are spaced around the Disneyland area are filled with a considerable grouping of parents that are not vaccinating their children. So you have a community-related virus that is spreading and has mutated as a result of all the years of vaccination that children have had. It has to get bigger, stronger, and scarier to actually have an effect on you. So
what are these planned communities? What are they called? Do they have a name?
These are over in the Anaheim area.
In the Anaheim, well, obviously around Disneyland and Anaheim, but what weird part of California is it that there are all these people that aren't vaccinating their children? I mean, everybody there loves the government and wants more government light in their life.
It is going to be. You're going. Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about this last week, although we didn't really record it for anything. But we were talking about this contingent of people that tend to be very whiny. Very accepting of, let's say, holistic and new age treatments for their children. They read their children's chakras in order to get rid of rubella or something like that. So it tends to be this kind of a community. These are people that will, they'll go on about
or something. I'm sorry. I have a difficulty. There's a reason why this is happening in California, and it's not because there's a bunch of people who decided not to vaccinate their kids all concentrated around Disneyland. I don't buy that for a second. There's something else that goes on in California. And it's called ground zero for illegal immigration coming into this country completely unfettered.
There is that.
And none of those people, who's vaccinating those people? Nobody.
Well,
why don't they stop that, and then we could worry about the 15 people that don't vaccinate their kids for measles? I mean, this is ridiculous.
It's a lot more. That number, it is a lot more than that. There are people around here who do that in New York City, for crying out loud.
All right, it's
as I'm sick, I'm telling you this.
What is the percentage of parents that don't vaccinate their children for measles? It's ridiculous. It's like an infinitesimal number compared to the millions of people that have just wandered into the country willy-nilly.
There is that. There's also our over-reliance on antibiotics as well, and
agreed there. That's a bad thing.
And you were telling me that you basically had an acquired infection, MRSA.
Mm-hmm.
That this points to that. Now, these are the medical reasons that I was talking about. Compromised immune systems. If you have allergies, obviously, there's reasons why children should not be vaccinated in that traditional fashion.
Sure.
Then you have 2A and 2B. and that's religious and philosophical. Every state except West Virginia and Mississippi allow parents with religious objections to immunize or ask for an exemption. So less than 1/2 of the states let parents who don't believe in the safety, need, or effectiveness of immunizations to ask for an exemption. So that is, okay, what is it? 48 out of 50 states for religious reasons and 20 for philosophical reasons. Right. Now, this brings up the issue of states' rights. Now, states' rights are an interesting entity. They will allow for certain activities such as owning guns, using drugs, marriage rights, healthcare provisions, property taxes. This does support my central idea that this is not a unified nation we live in. You and I live in different states.
Yeah.
I live in New York and you live in South Carolina. And as such, these states should be treated as separate nations. This is what I believe because there's simply too much variance in either climate, resources, economy, religion, philosophy, to think that this is one solid landmass called a nation. Obviously, people in your neck of the woods are going to disagree with people from my neck of the woods on fundamental principles, such as the ones I've already named. So we're never going to come together. We're never going to come to an agreement about these issues. So I say stop pretending this is, one nation under freaking God and live your life as you can where you live. And mind your own business. Don't tell me how to live my life in New York, and I won't tell you your business in South Carolina. Would you agree to that?
Well, yeah, I would. I mean, now the problem is, I think that a lot of the people who are pro-vaccination are, and I'm not an anti-vaccination person, but I certainly understand being able to decide which kind of medicines your child is going to receive. It seems like the pro-vaccination people want to be able to tell the anti-vaccination people that what to do. And hey, what are you going to do? I mean, somebody's born in South Carolina and dares to move to New York. What do you do then? This is one of those act locally, think globally, and act locally. Yeah. Whatever the fuck. Yeah. So, so what is it? What now? And personally, I still disagree with the premise that the infinitesimal number of parents that are not vaccinating their children are the cause of this problem. We all know what the cause of this problem is. It's obvious. Like, the cause of the problem is illegal immigration, period. That's where all of these unchecked people are wandering across the border, and that's where our problem.
I'll be the first to give you that, but I don't think any particular problem that we have can always be traced back to one. I think a lot of times it's a combination. It's a nice perfect storm, like a soup of just misery that
look,
gets
if you
dumped on
vaccinate
us.
your kids, see, that's one of these things, beautiful things about vaccination. You vaccinate your kids and you don't have to worry about it. So you take care of your kids, and my kids, if they're going to get sick, hey, so be it. That's why I didn't vaccinate them, and that's our family business, So if there's
back to states' rights, is there anything at least maybe on a political or economical level that had changed for you when you moved away from New York and you're in a place like South Carolina? Is there something there that's different? I mean,
everything.
Like intrinsically different on a political level?
Yeah, everything. The people are different. The people are different. In New York, it's all about there ought to be a law. And here things are a little bit. Yeah, there ought to be a law. There's people texting in their cars. There's got to be a law. And here, there's certainly there got to be a law. People here too, but for every one of those, there's another one that's saying, yeah, we already have laws that say that we don't need another law. What do we need another law for? Mm-hmm. Why can't the cops do their job? Why don't we need a law specifically for texting? If you're eating a hot dog the wrong way, you can cry. If you're bending down to look at the radio, you're doing something stupid. Like, can't we have a generic doing something stupid while driving law? Don't we already have that?
Yeah. That I agree. But I think, based on what you've told me about where you live, people they don't tend to get as wound up. They don't tend to, I mean, you obviously have some kind of a higher quality of life down there. So maybe it's a little bit easier for people to function. Up here, I'm surrounded by 11 million lunatics, okay? We are all trying to get to work. We need to make money. If the minute we miss our rent, we're out on our asses, I mean, we worry about this stuff. You guys...
Well, we worry about the bills too. People down here get like just because
your
it
bills
costs
aren't
us
so
less
high
to live.
though.
No,
if it's
but
not as high, it's less pressure.
People still well salaries aren't as high either. And it just so happens in my case, my salary stayed the same. Well, it stayed as much the same as it could stay the same with. The economy crashing to shit and making half what I used to make, but it's the same half that I made before I got here. Mm-hmm. So, but a lot of people are getting cut back and they're getting laid off, and things are while there is more activity here, certainly in the private sector than there is up there. There's still people get squeezed. It's not like. People's bill. They still have bills. Some of my neighbors have some pretty tough nuts to crack. So,
what do you think about the idea that this country isn't really a country? It's just a collection of 50 states, all with their own individual rights and laws.
I like that idea. I wish that it was used more.
Well, the Supreme Court, unfortunately, is that body that tries to contain us all into one. One entity, one nation, and all that. That's what the Supreme Court's function seems to be. It's a federal thing.
That's what we've made it because we're too gutless to make our own decisions. So we place the onus on 9 unelected judges who are there for life, no matter how senile they get.
Fight the establishment, Andrew.
Yeah. Well,
Rock on.
Look. Yeah, well, it is what it is. I'm not fighting it. I'm just recognizing it.
I'm not advocating militia madness. As far as I'm concerned, militias are just cults with more guns and less front teeth. They tend to take it too far, and they pray for doomsday.
Well, I'm not a member of a militia. I'd
really rather the world not end. I like the world. I also don't believe in God, heaven, hell, or the rapture. I can't wait for streets paved with gold when I have to pick up my daughter from school. I don't have time for that. So it seems to me that people have religion, but philosophy seems to be yet another way of looking at religion, just not calling it religion. It's a belief system, it's tenets you live by, and once again, it affects thousands of people on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Now, this is part of my rant here, and I'm sorry if I get a little loud because
it's all right.
It's this is something I've been working on. This is what I believe. All right. When you refuse to vaccinate your child on philosophical grounds, you're using your personal philosophy in a way that will affect a community. If one child comes home with a bad case of the measles, that's normal. It can happen. Vaccines are not 100% effective. Nothing is. But if 91 kids come home with a bad case of the measles, that is your fault. You have unwittingly created an epidemic. I'm sorry. I'm angry about this. I am so sick of pseudoscience and celebrities telling people how to live their lives. Just get it over with and run for president because you're a maniacal sociopath who wants to control people's lives.
They should stop letting those celebrities tell them how to live their lives and let Dave tell them how to live.
Yes, exactly. Celebrities do not care about you. Celebrities are not worth your time.
Only David cares about you.
Stop listening to them.
Listen to Dave.
For the most part, they are people who did nothing with their lives. They get honorary degrees. Honorary degrees are not real. They are photo opportunities, okay? Now, I was talking to my friend Eve the other day. She's a new mother, and I asked her if she is vaccinating her child. She gave me a flat yes. Absolutely yes, of course. Yes. She has reservations about the anti-vaxxer rhetoric, as you do. You told me. She tells me she can understand the concerns of the anti-vaxxers. Doesn't mean she isn't going to trust science. She wants her baby to be healthy, and I couldn't agree more with that philosophy, that tenet, that belief system. It's called common sense. If we could just have like a religion of common sense, that would be fantastic, wouldn't it?
Well,
Except it would be a religion.
People weren't trying to pervert common sense all the time, and common sense isn't all that common. And there's been a lot of science, so-called science, that's been thrown around, especially in the past 20 years. It's a whole lot of freaking hogwash. So I don't blame people for not trusting it. I don't blame people for not trusting drug companies who you can't sue no matter how bad their freaking vaccines are. I don't blame them for not trusting Gardasil when it has almost no effectiveness effectiveness for what it's supposed to, but they tried to mandate it in several states.
Is that one of them vaginal creams?
No, Gardasil is a vaccine for.
I'm sorry, I'm thinking of Vagisil. Sorry,
for the papilloma virus. It causes
HPV.
HPV. Yeah, it causes cervical cancer.
Now, you said you had an interesting idea last week. You had an idea. You come up with ideas. I yell. I don't know why, but you said something about creating creating competition within the medical community to come up with better, more effective ways of vaccinating children by opening it up to other research facilities and being able to do. Now, I think that's a great idea.
Oh, absolutely. I really, my problem with this. My problem with this is like tenfold. It's all over the place. I mean, I don't like the idea of you saying, well, it's science, and then forcing people to do it. Yeah, global warming is science too, and that's a load of bullshit, no matter where the hell you come from. And everybody knows it, which is why they have to believe in it like a religion. Everybody knows that it's bullcrap. Even the believers.
I wanted to make is that these people who the anti-vaxxers seem to distrust science on this level. Just as they would distrust GMO, genetically modified foods, but they accept the theories of global warming.
Oh, sure. Well, that's one thing.
So
it's like
conveniently, they're like, let's listen to science about this and totally disregard it about that.
Oh God, people are hypocrites all the time, and they're just stupid about stuff. It's an active effort in life to not be a hypocrite as much as you possibly can. It's like the human. The human default, I think, is to be a hypocrite, and you have to watch these things. It is like something you need to watch out for. I find in my life, and you also have to look at, for me, I try and look at where if there's somebody who disagrees with me on almost everything, if they agree with me on one thing, that's good. We can talk about that. Maybe we can convince a few other people to get something done on that one thing. And so if they believe in global warming, and I think they're idiots because they believe in global warming, so be it. If they I think they have their head screwed on right about something else, I'm not gonna ding them for believing in science on one thing and not the other. I don't know. It doesn't seem right. It's
I'm gonna quote Harlan Ellison, who is one of my favorite writers ever. In this wonderful documentary about him called Dreams of Sharp Teeth. And he says, one of the main arguments of people is, I'm entitled to my opinion. And he says, no, you are not entitled to your opinion. You are entitled to your informed opinion. Otherwise, it's just babble, hot air, and farts in the wind.
I agree. I agree. I definitely agree with that. It's like,
informed opinion is what matters to me.
True. I don't want to hear and there's nothing really wrong. I have never heard anybody say anything about the measles vaccine. Now, I have heard some legitimate concerns about some of the others. There's that one study that's been supposedly discredited, and then there's some questions about that, and I forget which vaccine that was. It was one of the newer ones with the autism thing.
Well, yeah. I was talking to Eve about that, and Eve said something about there was some what was it? Preservatives. There are certain preservatives that were in use or something, but there was no real connection, and all that doctor's research that he wrote, it was all like complete bullshit. It was a fabrication. And autism is one of those things that parents are scared to death of.
Yes,
right?
It is.
And it's also something that all you have to do is notice little weird behaviors in your child, and suddenly you're coming up with a diagnosis.
Yeah, and I think that's our diagnoses are what really have changed more so than anything else, because people are saying, well, where did it come from? We didn't have it when I was a kid. Like, yeah, we did. That weirdo that sat next to you at school, that guy had Asperger's syndrome, I grew up with a guy, I went to junior high school with a guy who invented BitTorrent. His name's Bram Cohen. And I was one of the only people who was actually kind of friendly with him, not 100%, but I was probably the most friendly to him of anybody in the whole school. But
now you get free Asperger's porn as a result of it.
No, well, I don't even use BitTorrent anymore. And he had Asperger's syndrome. It's been diagnosed later, but back then he was just a freaking nerd that didn't get along very well with anybody. That was the way we diagnosed these things back then, so be it.
Yes, he has he has a classic case of nerdism.
Nerdism.
Give him a round of.
I think that really that's where our outbreak of autism has come from, more so than anything else. So I don't know if we need to look to vaccines for that cause, but this one scientist or scientific group, whoever it was, put out this study that said one thing, and then somebody comes along and says the other.
Yeah,
they're both science,
right?
Whether or not one is right or wrong, I don't know. Which one's the junk one? Both were too convenient, if you ask me. And really, one study doesn't cover anything.
I think science is a series of learning processes. We come up with information. 20 years from now, that information will be obsolete. It won't work. New research. Science is a constantly evolving process.
It is, which is why when you have just for you global warming supporters out there, when you have to say that people who are skeptical of your science are deniers, your science is no longer science; it's a religion.
Hey, all right. That's pretty awesome. I like that one. I like that. Well, I just want to contribute here that we lived upstate for 4 years, as you know. Mm-hmm. Now, there were strange outbreaks of lots of things, whether it was pink eye conjunctivitis, stomach flu, lice, all this stuff. Regan would come home sick. She would have a high temperature and scare the hell out of me. There were pockets of measles and mumps outbreaks, even mono. There was a mono breakout. We moved back to the city, and Regan is into her 5th month of perfect attendance. She has not gotten sick once in the city. Why?
Anecdotal evidence, baby. Bring it. Why?
It would occur to me that if you live in a major metropolis, like a large population, you're more likely to get sick just from exposure, the so-called dirty air, the dirty
Maybe she's just been lucky walking in between germs for the
puddled
first
masses
5 months.
And runny noses and drinking water. New York is not a place for germaphobes.
Or maybe her immune system got so fucking pumped up back in upstate that like she rolls down there, she's like, fuck this.
Eve. So my friend Eve said, basically, you're surrounded by all this filthy, by comparison, living conditions. It's going to build up your immunity.
Right.
I can count my blessings and whatever nonsense that's all about. But the thing is, she's very strong. And yes, we vaccinated her. And I feel very safe knowing I vaccinated her.
Well, that's cool. I mean, and I don't disagree with that.
This might actually be a regional thing. I mean, like I said, like where you live is a lot different from where I live, and it could also be, related to population growth, your particular climate, whatever it might be.
Well, I recognize. I don't see it as a regional thing. I mean, if I lived in New York, I would maintain the same opinion on this that I do, and that I do now, and that is that I'm not gonna sit here and tell somebody that what they need to do with their children. I don't think that I think that I can take reasonable precautions with my children, and in order to mitigate whatever decisions you make. And I really think that our threat comes from people just wandering into the country whenever the hell they feel like it, more so than anything else, because there's millions of those people, and there's a lot less of the people who are not vaccinating their children.
I'll give you that. I tell people what to do. I bully them and I scream. I had my little rant.
Yeah, I know. I just I lived in New York for a long time, and
actually,
everybody there wants to tell you what to do. Yeah, fuck the celebrities. They're a bunch
of celebrities. But the thing is, people take what they say seriously. Like they're God
they're morons
or some
too.
sort of politician.
They watch Jersey Shore. Okay,
people. There is that too.
You can't help some people. And I know it's easy. One of the things that progressivism does is you're like, well, those people can't take care of themselves. We need to make the decisions for them.
Yeah.
And there are some people that are fucking idiots. Like they just are, and it's not like my job to tell them what to do, and it's really not anybody else's job.
One of Obama's people, one of the people who wrote the Health Care Act, didn't he say that the population is basically stupid? He actually said that.
Oh yeah, well that guy that
was hilarious.
I don't remember his name right now, but yeah, Yeah, that guy. He's a real piece of work. That he made a lot of money going around on the stupidity of the people, to a certain extent.
And you got to give him
he's
props.
just being honest. He was just being honest.
You got to give him props for that. No
Because a lot of people who supported that abomination were fucking morons. How could you possibly believe the bullshit that they were shoveling in your face all the time?
It's obvious that you can't run a country on the promise of unicorns and rainbows and puppies, and that's pretty much how they're doing it.
That's what we're doing now. What do you?
Yep.
Like we're basically, our stock market and everything else is all based on unicorn farts and fairy dust. We got nothing else, man. Like basically our biggest export is bullshit. That's that's what we do.
Now that we have actually solved the vaccination problem, just the two of us.
Yeah, thank God for us, man.
I wanted to talk about something that is related. I wanted to talk about the issue of what is called white flight. Now, this is hilarious. White flight is a term that originated in the United States.
That white boy can fly, yo.
20th century, and applied to the large-scale migration of whites of various European ancestries from racially mixed urban
white
regions.
People out the window. My bad. Sorry.
To a more racially homogeneous suburban or exurban region. The term is more recently applied to other migration by whites from older inner suburbs to rural areas, as well as from the U.S. Northeast and the Midwest to milder climate in the Southeast and Southwest where you live. So that's interesting. You told me your reasons for moving to the American Southeast. This is where you live. It wasn't due to white flight. It had more to do with the high cost of living in New York, and that you found you could stretch your dollar more in a place like South Carolina. The reason I moved upstate had more to do with relative quiet. No honking cars, car alarms, shouting in the streets, fire trucks, street noise. There was also the issue of space. We had a lot more space, but it didn't work out for us, and we moved back. I was on a Metro North train last year going to work. I worked in the city. Wasn't last year? No, it was 2013. I keep forgetting. And I'm listening to a conversation taking place near me. Good-looking young white couple. The woman is pregnant, maybe 5 months gone. She's checking her iPhone, checking a schedule, talking with her well-dressed husband. This is what I gathered from the conversation. They're expecting their first child. They're talking to a broker about buying a house in Chappaqua. They don't have quite enough money yet. Houses in Chappaqua start minimum $500,000. They have just come from their first appointment with an exclusive private school in Westchester County. They haven't even had the baby yet. And apparently there's a very long waiting list to get your kid into the school. And I'm listening to this. This is one of the primary reasons these young couples move out of the city and go to places like Chappaqua. I mean, hey, it's a gorgeous town. Beautiful woodland, fresh air, high ratings in the schools. They'll insist it's like a safe bet to move out of the dangerous city, move to the sticks, and they'll tout the higher quality of life and better schools. And really, to me, when they say the schools are good, what they really mean is that the schools are white. Like, white people are harmless. Meanwhile, lunatics, white lunatics with guns blow away kindergartners in Connecticut not 20 minutes away from my front door. That never happens in the city. They take security very seriously down here. You have to go through a metal detector, and you got well-armed security guards in the hallways. This kills me.
That's
the majority.
Nice. Go to school in a jail. That makes everything.
Yeah, and they kind of treat them that way. The majority of these people, these hypocrites, are liberals with bleeding hearts and hands, and of course, they're afraid of black people.
Well, I hope that none of them fly down here, because they won't fly down here, because things don't work like that down here. As I was just talking about that with my neighbor, as a matter of fact, this morning. That everybody up in the north has an idea of how things work down here, and it doesn't work anything like what they think it does. White people and black people down here get along very well, like better than anywhere else I've ever lived.
Right.
And really, they don't mind being around each other. None of us do. I've met some of the most awesome black people I've ever met in my life down here. They are amazing, and there's just a different dynamic between white people and black people here. There's strangers. In New York, it would be very unusual in either upstate or even in the city for strangers who are white to talk to strangers who are black and to interact. It just doesn't happen. Like
No, it doesn't.
in the school cafeteria, they separate. Here that is not the case. Here, strangers that are black and strangers that are white will talk to each other in a store. They'll touch each other. Like they'll pat one will pat the other on the shoulder or something like that. And you notice that it's a big difference, a huge difference. Now there are some people here, like some white people that don't like black people, and they ignore them. It's like they just totally pay no attention to them whatsoever. And if you don't do that, if you make eye contact and say hello, they're like it's a totally different thing. It's really, you kind of have to see it to believe it. Heather had to experience it before she got it. She's like, she like, it's hard to describe without sounding like you're some kind of weirdo racist. But it's really wonderful. It's heartwarming actually, because there are these barriers between people that aren't there.
Considering where I come from, I guess I'm not understanding you, and I guess that's part of what your point is the fact that I don't really understand.
I never got it either until
Are you
I
saying
spent
that color doesn't enter into the mind or something when you're
a lot more than up there? It really doesn't down here. For white people or for black people.
Now, do you think this
is
because...
in my experience, I spent a lot of time in where I was the only white guy in the school. I believe me, there's a little bit of racism against white people too.
I'd say there's they give as well as they get.
Yeah, they do. But down here it's really not the same. It's really different.
Now, would you attribute that to maybe perhaps there's a lot less pressure on black people or white people from these so-called advocates? I mean, we have people up here. We have very angry people up here. People like Al Sharpton who are always trying to, start a race war of some kind.
Yeah, I think that may well be part of it. I think it's also the here is like I said, talking about it with Noah like a couple of weeks ago. It's I find it amazing. It's back in New York, you never saw black guys who worked on cars and stuff like that. Once in a while you find a guy who's a mechanic, whatever. But guys who enjoy that, they build cars in their spare time. Mm-hmm. That's usually a white guy thing. Yeah. Down here, there's a ton of black guys who do that. They all have all these hot rod cars, and they work on them in their yards and stuff. And you see, I don't know where I was going with this, but I love that because I know that I have something more in common with them to talk to them.
Would you say that blacks and I don't know, Hispanics or any other what would be considered a minority up here have better employment opportunities and make better money down there?
I read somewhere, I have to check this stat before I quote it, but I read somewhere that here in South Carolina actually have the largest population of self-employed blacks in the country, or black business owners, something like
wow.
that. And that's what you see is entrepreneur black people rather than black people who are either they're in New York, really they're either employed by the government or they're on welfare, and then
a whole welfare nation is set up as a result of this. It's a culture that is derived completely around,
and it's in the city it's mostly black. When you go upstate, it's black, white, everybody. They either work for the government or they're on welfare. It crosses all racial lines. In the city, and now I haven't been spending a lot of time in the city even the last 10 years. So this is when I was there. But when I was there, it was mostly the black people that were either government employees or on welfare, and they all lived in the same area. Now here, there one of the reasons why you get sort of ghettoized into an area is you can't own a car. Nobody can own a car. It's too fucking expensive.
Yeah.
Here, anybody can own a car. We have the most egalitarian rules for registering a car that I've ever experienced in the country. It goes by how much your car is worth. So you take an old $200 car and put it on the road. The amount that you're going to pay to register that car is $15 per year. Rather than in New York, where no matter how much of a piece of shit you own, it costs you at least $300. and then you have to inspect it, and then it has to pass inspection, and then that guy takes it out of your ass. Here, you don't have any of that shit.
See,
so like
you're gonna keep talking about this, and I know our viewers are gonna be like, shit, I better check out South Carolina there.
Don't do it. It's horrible down here.
Somebody send me a broshure, dear. What do you think about? Suddenly, I'm Jimmy Stewart. What do you think about moving down to South Carolina, Mary?
What about that Mr. Potter is there? No, tell him not to come.
That son of a bitch. Do you remember there was a Saturday Night Live sketch? I think William Shatner was the host of the episode back in '86, and he said, "This is the original ending of It's a Wonderful Life." And basically, it was like somebody comes in while they're celebrating and they're singing Old Lang Syne, and they're like, "Hey, I just found out it was Potter who took that money," and there's like, "Well, what are we waiting for? Let's get him!" And they go and they beat him to death. Falls out of his chair, and they're just killing him, and there's blood everywhere.
Saturday Night Live was funny, awesome.
That was back when it was good, yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, I want to paint a very different picture for you.
Sure.
This is basically about life in upstate New York.
Yeah.
Now, the higher quality of life, and I put that in quotes, is a different subject. It really isn't. Everything costs triple in upstate New York than what it costs here in the city. Food, utilities, water costs way more upstate. So really, white people will do anything, pay anything to get away from blacks and Hispanics. That's not to say there aren't black or Hispanic people upstate. There are. One thing I've noted, though, that's very disturbing to me is that the Hispanic people keep to themselves. They are extremely polite. In fact, they're almost subservient, which is in itself disturbing. They treat themselves almost as second-class citizens stacked up against the white people. Perhaps from fear of because it's an overwhelmingly white population in the town where I lived. I mean, basically 99%. There were a total of 2 black people in all of Brewster, and they were treated like criminals. My friend Colin came up to visit. He's black. We went to the supermarket, and he was being watched like a hawk. I mean, I was outraged. They treated him like he was a shoplifter, and it really pissed me off because no one ever treated us like that. So it certainly isn't an easier way of life either, because bill collectors breathe down your neck. They charge an arm and a leg for necessities like tap water, for crying out loud. And up where we lived, they didn't even fluoridate the water, which resulted in bigger bills from the dentist up there. My backyard was an acre, and the property was built on what me and my wife called a tit. It was like a boob because of the septic tank, and it made mowing the lawn a very unpleasant chore. And if you didn't want to mow the lawn, you could either get a citation or pay $150 to landscapers.
You weren't really upstate. You were in like a suburb of the city, and that's your problem. That's where you were.
I do know. Yeah, I know. People. I remember you people, because you live near Albany, right? And those Albany people would often say, "You don't live upstate. You live 50 miles from the city."
If you can commute to the city by like a train, like every day, then you are within that spot where things are going to cost you more. And pay. Look, and don't kid yourself. Your water is priced into your rent because somebody's got to pay that bill. So just because somebody's probably making money on it.
Well, I always had to pay the water separately in addition to the rent, but I was pretty much taking. Oh yeah,
but like where you are now, your landlord ain't doing that for nothing. Like you're paying for the water too.
Well, there is that. But it was a friend kind of took pity on us in our situation.
But also, you guys didn't have a car, right? So that's going to bring your costs way up because you were shopping at wherever grocery store you could walk to. So you had to go to like some small corner store, if I remember you told me. And that's going to bring your costs way the hell up versus driving to the local Walmart and using that. Yeah. Because, that would have saved you a ton. But then you'd also have the price of having a car and all that. But,
there was that.
But so that's a couple of things. Like you definitely could have saved money on your food and household expenses.
Sorry.
If you had a car.
Where you lived like in Schenectady, right?
Yeah.
So how different was it there than what I've just given you my experience in Bruce?
Schenectady is a fucking toilet. It's a place that has been devastated and destroyed. It used to be a great, like, blue collar town. It was the first city in New York to be electrified. It's
Right.
where zip codes were invented. It has this tremendous history, this tremendous historic district. It's beautiful. It's got wonderful. It's a wonderful place to see, really, except for the fact that now it's a falling down mess of welfare. It's a disaster, like just like most of the state is. Anywhere like the city, there are two areas in New York that are the only place that have any economic growth whatsoever: the Capital District by Albany, because all the government workers live there, and the city. And its surrounding areas. Everything else is fucking devastated. It looks like it's getting, like, go to Buffalo, dude. It looks like fucking Detroit. like seriously, everything is gone.
So
Everything
how
is
far
shuttered
does
and shut up. It's just gone.
how far does money go in a place like Schenectady compared to what I said in Brewster?
Well, my rent was very high because property taxes are freaking ridiculous.
Yeah.
In terms of now, food costs are higher than they are here for the most part. The only thing is really cheaper was milk and eggs. Which were quite a bit cheaper than they are here. I gather because
Probably
it's something to do with trucking it around.
Well, locally, maybe, yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a little warm here for the cows. I don't know why eggs, but like the cows, like I think they prefer, like they need colder weather, like so they keep them a little bit up, so they have to truck it in. And in New York, I think they keep them there in New York. So like, that's what I've heard. I don't really know. I'm no expert on the subject,
Okay.
but. My car insurance was much more. My pretty much every bill. My electric bill was. I had a house half the size of what I have here, and the electric bill was a third more than it is here. I didn't pay my water bill because I rented my house, and the landlord paid that. So I got a water bill. What else? Cable bill was about the same, I guess. It's all the same everywhere. Pretty much. And
So
I was getting tolls everywhere I went in the car.
Right.
Every time I spent, like in upstate New York, I mean, it was nothing to me considered like I lived in Staten Island, or I spent like $200 or no, it was more. It was a lot more on tolls. I think, yeah, it was like $200 to $300 a month minimum on tolls that I spent when I lived in Staten Island.
What was your rent? Do you remember your rent in Schenectady? Because you said
$1,400.
And you didn't pay for water.
No.
Wow.
I had a small house.
Well, you had that's a good deal because they really took us for a ride.
Good
on that
deal,
one.
dude. My mortgage is $1,197.
And you're a homeowner. You know all this. Yes.
Yeah. My house is way better, thank you. I'll take the water bill.
It's also very quiet, like I said. It's very
Yeah, and it has 4 bathrooms. My the other house there had just one.
They don't skimp on bathrooms down there, do they?
Hell no, man. Hell no.
Okay, I think we've solved the problem of white flight as well. I don't know how we did
That's
it.
good. Tell
Well,
those white
basically-
people to stay on the ground. I'm sick of them flying around like
people.
pelicans.
Come on, pelican.
Come on, white person.
Well, I think what I did, the only I guess proper note that I wanted to convey was the level of hypocrisy, because a lot of these people are moving up here. They're all young, progressive type, liberal thing, and they, in the end, they really don't want to be around anybody but their own. And when I was around all those white people, they freaked me out because, you know,
They freak me out too. I hate them.
I hate white people. That's it.
Dude, give me black people any day of the week and
Kill
twice on Sunday
whitey,
over those
honky.
people, please. Again, even
Dude, we
racist
should
black people
record our
that
own
hate
rap
my
album.
guts. Give me. I'd rather be around a bunch of people that want to kick my ass than be around those people, because like I'll make friends with the guys who want to kick my ass, or I'll fight them, whatever I got to do. That's better than these fucking these progressive fucking morons.
Yeah.
God help me.
I feel way more comfortable. I think maybe it's just the fact that you and I grew up in the city, city areas. We're just plain more comfortable around this kind of mixed mosaic. That's what I always liked about New York. It was different than Philadelphia, because Philadelphia was extremely segregated. You kept Black people stayed in one section of town and white people stayed in another.
Yeah, yeah.
But here it's all mixed up, and I'm glad to hear that in South Carolina you have not only do you have that wonderful mix, but it seems as though race and color has the conversation is just it doesn't exist. It's like you all live there.
I think what happened was, I say we. I come from New York, but this place already had its fight about that. As far as everybody here is concerned, we're all Americans now. It's really that's where we're at. Not that there aren't other people who think differently, and there are, but I'd say really the majority of people, everybody here just wants to get along and live their life and live and let live. That's really where.
I'm going to cue up "God Bless America" while you're talking.
Yeah.
This has been BlissVille, Misadventures in BlissVille. I'm David Lawler, and I want to thank my guest again tonight, Mr. Andrew Legank or Legank. Something.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you so much for pronouncing my name.